What is up, guys? Welcome back to Drums and Drams. It's a Wednesday night, not a Thursday night. This is not going to be a 2-hour or 3-hour live stream. This is going to be a focus tasting. Well, about as focused as you can get when you have 5 barrel-proof pours in front of you. So I will probably be, in the beginning of this flight, using the old spittoon just to make sure I stay somewhat sober, at least at the beginning, and then, at the end, I'll probably start actually sipping these things. But what we're going to be doing in today's video, whether you're watching live or watching the replay for this, is I'm going to be blindly ranking all of the 2024 Stagg batches, along with the E.H. Taylor that just dropped this year, which is batch 13. Now, if this seems familiar to you, if this seems like a little bit of deja vu, you are not wrong. This is kind of a repeat of a live stream I did a few weeks ago, and that's because I don't think any of us knew that batch 24D, which I have a sample of here, Stagg 24D, which is the first D batch that we've seen since they've started doing the alphanumeric, labeling of the batches. I don't think any of us saw a 4th batch coming in 2024. So when this dropped, it was like, oh, geez, I guess we got to redo this video. So I got to say thank you to my buddy Justin, not only for that sample, but also lending me his bottle of E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof Batch 13, which I did taste on my most recent live stream. I'm not going to spoil anything now, but as far as my opinions on any of these go, but the last blind ranking that I did of these was kind of a shocker. 24C won. And I wouldn't have said that going in, that I thought 24A was going to take it easily. 24C ended up winning actually fairly easily in that 3-pour blind. So let's see if tonight, if there's any kind of repeat of that result, whether it's, at any point in the 5 pours that we're doing, if the ranking ends up with C on top of at least A and B, which would have been the 2 that we would have done in the last video. So this is going to be an interesting one. I haven't poured these out yet because I wanted to pour them in front of you. I wanted everybody to see because, there are always whispers, I think, behind the scenes for pretty much any whiskey tube channel that, oh, this person's cheating on their blinds or this or that, or they have an agenda. You kind of see these things pop up every now and again, and so I want to pour them in front of you. I want to mix them up in front of you. If I'm good enough to memorize the order as I'm mixing them up, then I shouldn't be in Whiskey Tube. I should be doing something else, I think, probably. So that's the deal, what we're going to be doing today. If you are watching the replay of this, we're 2.5 minutes in so far. You might want to fast forward if you're just here for the result or just here for the tasting, because there is a little bit of logistical work here to get these poured out and get them mixed up. But tonight's live stream, again, not only is it going to be this kind of focused 5-pour blind, but because there are so many whiskeys, and I don't want to get smashed and try to fit this in 30 minutes, I opted to start this at 7 Eastern instead of 7:30. So I'm actually going to give myself up to about, 45 minutes to an hour to get through. I don't think it's going to take that long to get through this, but I am going to give myself that time if I need it. So I'm going to pour these out, and I'm going to pay attention to the fill levels of the glasses, make sure that these are the same fill so that there's no giveaways, at least, as far as fill level goes for me as I'm going through this. All right, so I'm going to fill these up with pretty heavy pours because when you're doing this many, there's a lot of back and forth that can end up happening, and it's good to have enough in the glass. Because you can't really re-pour them, once you don't know which one is which, there's no chance to re-pour. All right, we got one more here with the E.H. Taylor. I'll give you the proofs along the way. All right, I think that's good. So I'll give you proofs along the way. I have already labeled the bottom of each glass, double stickered, written in pencil. Can't see through to what's written underneath. And then after I mix these up, I'm going to re-sticker the glasses A through E. Well, no, I won't. We'll do 1 through 5 so that I don't get mixed up saying A when I'm talking about, 24A or whatever. There's no confusion on the letters there. So I'll do these 1 through 5 once I mix them up. So let's get these samples and bottles out of the way. And we can get on with this blind flight. Let me say hello to some folks. I am going to interact with chat throughout this one, again, because I am kind of taking my time on this flight. So let's see. We've got, what's up? Stephen Parker's in. Here came clearly or someone who cooks the books. Don't bore us with integrity. Yeah, I'll do my best, to keep this exciting. By the way, guys, please hit that like button if you haven't already. Sorry if the noise is really loud for me mixing these up on the table. We can do a little merry-go-round action here. Get these all mixed up. Let's see. Who else is in here? Rich, good to see you, Terry. Thanks, guys, for jumping in. Rich says, we trust you. I hope so. I hope at this point, the trust is there, but we'll see. Slat says, start the timer. 1 free trust token for every 3 minutes late. I think I was maybe 2 sets of 3 minutes late. Long day at work. Joe, what's up, man? I like to use any excuse to drink Stagg that I can get. Me too. Oh, I just, kind of spilled a little bit. All right, I've contaminated it. Got to re-pour them now. All right, so we're going to roll with this order. We're going to go from your left to right. Glasses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let me get these labeled now that we are good mixing them up. Yes, thank you, Terry. Be sure to hit that like button, you all. You all? Kind of weird to say that. Y'all. But if I say y'all, then people make fun of me for that, too. Everybody. I'll say everybody, or I'll say folks. Can't get in trouble for those. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's get on with this flight. As usual with these kind of focused flight tastings that we do. I like that, focused flight tasting. I'm not going to show you guys what I'm sipping on in the glass. I didn't have cards ready for this to flip up and show you, so we're just going to go fully blind until the final reveal at the end. Feel free to hazard some guesses in the chat as I go through this, and kind of say which one you think is which, if you happen to know the defining characteristics of each of these. I don't really know the defining characteristic of Stagg 24D, and I also think that 24A is kind of similar in some ways to this E.H. Taylor, so I think there's a good variety now in here. My goal is not to guess which one is which, so I'm going to avoid that. I'm just going to rank them based on preference. So there we go. Anthony James, are Stagg and E.H. Taylor the same mash bill? Yes, they are. They are mash bill 1. However, I don't know if there are any other differences with these, like whether it's barrel, warehouse placement or some other facet that might differentiate them besides just the commonality in the mash bill. Maybe, heck, they could be using different barrel char levels. You never really know. If that information is out there, I'm not familiar with it, at least right now, off the top of my head. Rich says 24C will win again. Let's find out, man. Steven Johnson, first day back since dry January. Nice, man. All right, let's go. I feel like I got something. I just ate dinner. If I got something in my teeth, someone tell me. All right, here we go. Glass 1. And actually what I'll do is a quick just down the line nosing on these just to try to get my bearings. All right. All right, so glass 2 just feels darker right off the bat. Glass 3, very icing forward, like vanilla icing. So already 3 pretty different profiles. You can tell they're the same thing more or less, even with the E.H. Taylor thrown in the mix, whichever one it is. But pretty defining characteristics already on the first 3. Ooh, this one's kind of like a little more char forward. A little more bakery kind of notes on glass 4. And then glass 5. Ooh, glass 5 is like very sour fruit. Yeah. Once you get past the sour fruit, it's a little maybe extra, maybe a little too tart for me on the nose. But once you get past that, there's actually a pretty strong menthol note coming out of glass 5. So already very different. So let's dig in a little bit more now. Correct pronunciation. What was the pronunciation? All right. So glass 1 is maybe the most balanced out of all of these. Just down the line, that quick nosing that I did, they all stood out with something. Glass 1 is the one that doesn't really stand out with something. This feels just the most balanced. It has the menthol note of glass 5, but it also has a little bit more caramel richness to it. And super even keeled fruit notes in the mix. So completely inoffensive glass 1. Not special, but balanced. And so sometimes balance will win out over some of these if the others are maybe, you know, have more personality, but maybe not in a great way, let's say, on the palate. Oh, Steven versus Steven with an A. Most people say Stefan. I gotcha. Or Stefan. Wow, listen, glass 2, I love the sweetness on glass 2. Yeah, 1 is actually a little bit drier on the nose as well. So it has that balance. It has a lot of the characteristics of all of these put together, but a little bit dry. 2 is got this really nice like that vibrant candy shop sweetness, and I thought another one of these had that too. I think 2 and 3 have that. They do. Huh. Wow. All right. So I think, man, this is tough. This is really tough. It's like it all comes down to what you value in your Stagg batches / E.H. Taylor. You know, do you want the sweetness? Do you want more fruit? I think for me, I like the darker notes, and so my preference always goes there. But a lot of these right now have this vibrant, brighter sweetness to them, and so I can't discount those just based on my personal preference. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to glass 3, a little more in depth on the nose. Wow, I mean, this epitomizes that vanilla icing candy shop note that you get on some of these. Glass 3 epitomizes that, and I think it has it in a more concentrated way than glass 2. Glass 2 it's like an in-between profile almost. So 1 is the balanced everyday profile amongst these. 2, you add on the sweetness, you add on the vanilla sweetness. 3 is just all vanilla icing. Yeah. Okay. All right. So back to 4. 4, man. 4 is dark. 4 is very, very dark. I like this. It's got like this kind of charry, like plummy charriness to it. See, that's my profile. Now, the question is it going to be flat on the palate? Is it going to stand up to some of these other ones, which feel like they might have some really good proof and good spice? Because that's darker, sometimes darker profile can also equal a little bit of a flatter experience on the palate, but we'll find out. 5 to me is perhaps my least favorite nose. I just think that sour fruit note that I'm getting on 5, it stands out. It makes this whiskey feel like it's too separated. Like that top note is too separated from everything else underneath it. So that's going to be my last place on the nose. Yeah, and let me see. So we're going to rank these on the nose, and then I'm going to go through on the palate and see if anything changes around. Barry says, still looking for the 24D. Almost didn't want to post that. Savages. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of D jokes in the live chat tonight. It's only 7 Eastern. You know, it's not Drums and Drams after dark yet. Got a couple hours for that. That's okay, though. That's not going to stop anybody. All right. So let me check out 5, which I think is my least favorite, versus 1 on the nose. Yeah, 1 is just boring on the nose, man. Okay, I'm going to put 4 against 1. Oh, 4. 4 is awesome. Yeah. All right, so this is interesting. This is not like a definite order, but I'm going to put 5 in last place still. It could end up beating 1 out. I'm going to move 4 up because I love the darkness of this on the nose. I'm going to put that in first place for now, and then I'm going to switch 2 and 3. So my order right now, and last is glass 5 because of that sour, almost off fruit note that I get. One, like, what does it remind me of, that sour fruit note? Almost reminds me of, I'm trying to think of like a wine, like a very puckery, like blood orangey, very tannic wine, but maybe like a sort of like a Nebbiolo a little bit. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right wine. It's not like a dark, rich, but tannic wine. It's like a bright and like puckering, high acidity kind of wine. That's what 5 reminds me of. D. All right, Lawrence. All right, get it started. Get it started in the chat. You guys are funny. Yeah, this is going to come down to like what you value in your whiskey for sure. I think it's pretty clear to me though that these two belong in the bottom 2 and these two belong in the top 2, and that glass 2 is kind of caught in the crossfire, you know, and you don't really know what to do with it. So let's start now by tasting. Let's start with glass 5, the sour one, which I think is it's going to be in last place so far. Yeah, that one, it's kind of got that effect on the palate too, that puckery, like tannic, sour, tart fruit note. Justin says, I hope D wins so we can hear you. Gotta pre-screen those things before I put them on the screen. Kyle, would be happy with any Stagg batch this year, willing to get... Woo! Let's get it going. It's getting spicy in here. All right. Let's go to glass 1. I definitely like glass 1 on the palate more than glass 5. You know what? I'm not going to spit these anymore. I'm having a hard time picking things up, some of the nuance. And that's the thing about doing this. We're really like splitting hairs. We're really getting into the nitty gritty. And it's hard to delineate that when I'm spitting. So I am going to take just really small sips of these moving forward. What's up, Jason? Hey, guys, just hopping on to say, hey, can't watch now, so watch later. Thanks, man. All right, so I'm gonna start this again. And that's the difference between I'm going to say it this way, between using a spittoon and not using a spittoon, because if I say it the other way, I'm just going to get endless crap in the comments. The difference is really like evaluating the finish of the whiskey. That's the hardest thing to do when you are using a spit cup. You guys are killing me in the live chat. Oh my God. I just like, this time though, I am correct. I like 1 better than 5 on the palate. So between this pair so far, I can personally rank 1 higher. It's, again, like I said on the nose, it's slightly uneventful, but it's balanced, and that's exactly how the palate is. Nothing about that stands out. It's even keeled. And I actually think the palate's better than the nose, and so as I start moving through this, the rest of these 3 that are remaining on the palate, I think 1 could actually move up if any of these don't quite hold up from nose to palate. Adam, I know, right? Jacob, I get it. Like, the spitting is not the full whiskey experience, but you can't be drinking 100 whiskeys. So that's why any list like that is going to be imperfect, especially in one sitting. I mean, the best way to do it is probably like what the Mashup Podcast guys do. So shout out to them. They're doing it over many different tastings, and I don't know if they're spitting or swallowing. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. There, I said it. Didn't mean to say that one, but I'm not sure exactly how they're doing it behind the scenes, but at least like they're doing it in multiple sittings, and I have a lot of faith in that. Now, the thing that I don't like about the mashups list, which is not really a legitimate complaint, it's just that it's an average of many different scores, and I actually would prefer to just see everybody's work individually. You know what I mean? Like, the averaging of scores can start to skew things heavily. Yeah, and that's a small complaint. Brett, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. God, you guys are just... All right, let's go to glass 2 now, which is just in the middle of this. So this is the one that had some of that candy shop sweetness, but not all. Not as much as glass 3. Okay, interesting. So that was like a flash, kind of like there and gone on the palate a little bit. The sweetness is lingering, but the whiskey development on that, like the spice and the ramp up and crescendo on the palate, didn't happen so much. It wasn't totally flat. Like, it did have a little bit of a crescendoing thing, and then it just kind of stopped. So let me taste glass 1 one more time to see. Maybe I can go ahead and flip-flop 2 and 1 on this. I think I'm flip-flopping those on the palate. And we have to give preferential treatment to the palate of these whiskeys, not just the nose. The finish is better on that. The flavors are a little bit more in line with what I like, even though, again, I said it's more of that balanced experience. The nose wasn't as you know, it didn't have as much personality, but we're going to flip those. That said, I'm still going to keep the order of the bottom two. 5 is in last place, and that's just that sour fruit note that I don't think is great. Adam, come on. Woo. Anybody watching the replays, like, what is he on about? And then they're gonna look at the live chat and be like, okay, I get it now. Let's see. Jacob says, that's true. That's very true. Some days they might like oak or less oak. Maybe some days small sips with big breaks. I don't know. Hard to make a good list with 100 whiskeys. I agree, man. Listen, and that's the thing about... So I should say this now, and I haven't really said it yet. I'm not making a top whiskeys of 2024 video. We're in February. To me, it's a little bit irrelevant at this point. I was late to the game on it. I told you guys Watch Hill Proper was my favorite 2024 whiskey. I was going to make the list video. I just didn't keep good enough notes throughout the year. I didn't hang on to bottles and samples and stuff to really make it a great video in that way. And so I'm not going to do it. But to Jacob's point, and sorry to get off topic here a little bit, but I think this is important to talk about, and I'd love to hear what people think. There's something to be said about trying to rank 100 or 50 or 40 or 25 whiskeys, right? The higher that number goes, the less reliable I believe those results are. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you do it. If it's 1 sitting or 10 sittings, I think the higher that number climbs, you would have to do a ton more tastings as that number goes up if you really wanted to do it the right way and pit things against each other consistently throughout a bracket or something. It would take forever to do it the right way. So then you're kind of basing things on multiple sittings and scores that may have, between two whiskeys that may have never actually gone head to head in your bracket. And so I think there's just always going to be errors involved in that, and it opens you up for criticism, of course. So to me, this year, what I was going to do before I just decided, you know what, it's too late, I'm not going to make my top 10 video or whatever, I was going to just do a list of things that, like bottles that I couldn't stop drinking, that I couldn't put down, like the Old Fitz 13, what else, Russell's 15, stuff like that, and some off-the-wall ones as well. But I think in some ways that video, to me, holds more weight to hear from somebody that I couldn't stop drinking this. And who knows, that whiskey might lose in a blind versus something 40 proof points higher. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather drink this 90 or 100 proofer than I would this 130 or 140 proofer. I think, to me, there's just no perfect system, but it's just food for thought. All right. Let's go on to glass 3, which is in second place. This was the Mega Candy Shop Vanilla Icing Bomb. Oh, my God. This whiskey, to me, has the most personality so far, besides my least favorite one, because the personality that one has is one that I don't like. But glass 3, this is very, very concentrated. It's super bright. So if that's not your thing, especially when you're talking Stagg/E.H. Taylor, if that's not your thing, then you might not like this. But you cannot fault the concentration of this whiskey. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's really good. That is really good. It almost leaves like a sugary residue, residual sweetness in your mouth. All right, I'm getting a lot of texts. I'm going to turn my phone over so it doesn't get my ADHD going. I can't stop looking over. Wow. So, okay. That's really, really fantastic. But back to glass 1, which I've now moved up into third place. Now, by comparison, because glass 3 is so bright, so sweet, I'm getting a lot of clove out of glass 1. And I wasn't really detecting that before. I was talking about how balanced it is and got a little bit of everything. But that clove note is starting to really define this. Oh, man, that's really good, too. All right, so I got one more to taste, which is glass 4. Glass 4 was the really dark one in the mix. All right, I got to let this settle on my palate for a second. You guys are killing me. Kyle Smith, 100 is way too many. Here we are talking about it months later, just like he wants us to, increasing his views and popularity. I mean, I don't, I wouldn't say that about Fred. I don't know Fred Minnick. I've met him. I'm not sure if he knew that I was a whiskey tuber or something like that. I met him at an event here in Ohio, but nice guy when I met him, was definitely bombarded at this event, as you would expect. But yeah, I would have no issues like talking to Fred face to face and being like, listen, man, I don't, you're crazy for doing that. And it's a crazy system. And I don't agree with I don't love the idea of putting out a list of 100 when you're at that point with your popularity. Like, Fred is obviously like the number one whiskey influencer in any form, like, written, video, like just overall, he is the number one guy. But I would, have that discussion. Like, I don't agree with the amount of influence you have making a top 100 list, that there's no way that this can be, a highly accurate list given the format, even doing it over multiple days. And then that list carries so much weight throughout the rest of the year. It's a touchy thing, but he obviously wants to make his content and do his thing. So I think he probably realizes, though, the responsibility that a list like that, the responsibility he has to try to do that as well as he possibly can. So it would be an interesting discussion for sure. And I don't know how much he's really talked about that from a critical, from somebody critiquing it. If he's ever had those kind of conversations publicly, I'd be interested. But for him and his brand, he probably needs to really stand by, hey, this is what I do. And I believe in it and I stand by it. And I have no doubt that Fred I have no doubt that he has a great palate and believes in what his results were that night in that tasting. I believe that he believes that, and that it's not that it's not BS. But I still don't think it's a great system. But then you ask me to give you a system that works better, and I don't necessarily have one, because they all have their own flaws depending on how you do it. So that's my non-answer. All right. Oh my God, the nose on this last one. The nose on this. Ugh. Wow. This is going to be a battle. Wow. That's really good. If that's 23C again, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to laugh really hard. I mean, wow, that's good. Not the longest finish. Not the longest finish on that. So I can definitively put these out of the picture here. We're really focusing now on glasses 1, 3, and 4. We've had a pretty big order change here. And let's see what's going on. Let's go to glass 1, which is in third place currently. Interesting. So glass 1 is a chameleon whiskey. It's totally changing depending on what I'm putting it up against. So I just came off of glass 4, which is super dark, fruity. It's rich. It's everything I look for in either a Stagg or an E.H. Taylor. And I go back to 1, which turned into this clove experience for me last time up against those candy shop sweet whiskeys. Now 1 has like a funk, like an oak funk. And that's not like a typical thing that I get on any of these whiskeys, usually. Sometimes I get some bitterness, but never like an aged oak funk. Yeah, there it is again. It's really just in that comparison to glass 4. Very solid. But it's like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of batch. And that's the cutoff point in here for like, I would confidently say to buy that. And then the top two, you know, also I would confidently say to buy these. The bottom one for me, I would just pass on that personally. And then glass 2, which is in fourth place, that's a take it or leave it kind of batch, in my opinion. I think glass 1 is staying in third place. So now we're really battling it out between two profiles that are about as opposite as you could possibly get. Glass 3 being the vanilla monster and glass 4 being the dark fruit monster. Jacob, have you had any of the old Carter batches? Just traded for a bunch of old ones. American 345, Bourbon 3. I'm not an old Carter person. I always thought old Carter was extremely overpriced. I get that it's got like a cult following and a collectability to it. I remember when everybody went nuts over Bourbon Batch 5, and I never had Bourbon Batch 5, but people said, oh, it's very similar to Bourbon Batch 14, which I did have, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that. I thought it was fine, but what are they? Are they like $300 or something? Like, I've never had an old Carter that felt like it was worth $300 to me. So, the Americans, I don't like American whiskey old Carter batches. Those are just not really my jam. So, I've been, and in blinds, it's also happened. Like, people have just sent me blinds with some of the earlier American whiskey batches. It's just not my profile. Cam, what's fair price on Springbank 18 and your thoughts? I don't know a fair price on that anymore. I can't remember. And my thoughts, I only have a sample of Springbank 18. I believe Brett T, I think, was in the chat tonight. I think he gave me one. I haven't tasted it yet, but I'm not the most familiar with the 18 year. But I love all the Springbanks. Okay. Let's go back to glass 3 now. Man, that is so... It's like birthday cake ice cream sweet. Almost reminds me of that Pursuit Double Oaked Bourbon that has that, like, that birthday cake ice cream super, super heavy sweetness on there. This has kind of got that note. But my God, does it drink nice. It just does everything that profile of a whiskey should do on the palate. The way that, like, when you first take that sip, you're immediately getting all the vanilla icing notes, and as it starts to kind of pick up steam, the whiskey just spreads out on the palate. Man, it just spreads out. It never gets overly spicy. The spice and the sweetness are just perfectly intertwined, and they grow together. And they fall together. So I'm going to do one more sip of that. telling you. You do a second sip on it. I think that's important because if you keep doing one hit wonders on these back and forth, you don't get that acclimation on the palate where then you take the second sip and you get past whatever the top note is into the kind of the depths of the whiskey. This one, after that first sip, the vanilla goes away. I'm much more into like a cinnamon, like a sweet cinnamon red fruit profile underneath that. So I think that's important. All right, let's do 2 sips now of glass 4. Give my palate just a quick break. All right. Wow, this is just so my profile. It's a little grittier, a little more bite to this, darker spices. Yeah, more allspicy. It's kind of like a dried cherry, like raisiny kind of notes in this. Man, that's great. All right, one more sip, and then we're going to wrap this up. Damn. All right. I'm not going to cop out. Part of me wants to just tie for first place because the top 2 glasses are such different profiles. And I think, depending on what kind of whiskey drinker you are, I would never disagree with you putting one of these over the other. One more sip of glass 3, just for good measure. Almost a little Maker's Mark yogurt note on glass 3 here in second place. All right, we're going to leave this order. I'm going to give my winner to glass 4. I've got to go with my gut on the dark fruits. Yeah. But glass 3, very solid. So let me make some guesses. I'm just going to lock some guesses in. If I had to think about what batches these could be, and I was very wrong on this last time, so who knows? I think last place is B. Fourth place, I think, is A. Third place is D, which I don't know the profile of, so that's like a totally random guess. I think second place is actually the E.H. Taylor. I think first place is 24C again. But let's find out. So in last place, glass 5, sour fruit tannic. I just don't love this. What is it? It is B. So Stagg 24B is my least favorite of the year. You can get underneath that note, and maybe I should have done 2 sips in a row of that one. But it's hard to get past that top note for me. It's that watermelon candy, grapefruity kind of thing that I just don't love in a Stagg batch. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. All right, so in fourth place, glass 2, this is the one that had a little bit of that candy shop sweetness, like glass 3 did, but it was also kind of balanced out by darker notes. But the palate was kind of flat on this, and that was my biggest problem. I said maybe this is 24A. Wow, this is 24D. Okay, so this is the profile that I didn't know. And it being flat is really what killed it. And I remember Justin saying that he was not very impressed by 24D, and this tracks. And again, I think for anybody watching, like, you could take these bottom 2 and you could reverse them on any given day. Like, if you like that watermelon candy note, I mean, hell, you might have that moved up over some of my top picks here. But I think for anybody, glass 2, which is 24D, I think for anybody that's in your bottom 2, because it's not an issue of flavor profile preference on that one. It's a pretty approachable flavor profile. It's more just an issue of a blend that does not drink well, a blend that has just a flat spot on the palate, and that's as you get into the finish. So there you go. Okay. So in third place, I said that I thought this was 24D. This is actually going to probably be 24A if I had to switch my guesses. Oh, shit. We're switching things up today. Oh, no. Crazy. Okay, this is 24C in third place. And I feel good about this. I feel good about this guess, or about this order. I feel great about putting that in third tonight. I have no second guesses, and I thought my order last time was crazy, and here we go. So 24C. This is the one that I said kind of had a little bit of everything going on. It was a chameleon. But drinks well. It didn't have as much of a finish as the top two did, but I still say that I would definitely buy my top three, and the bottom two, I don't know. But 24C, so I think this came down to E.H. Taylor and 24A, and I think 24A won. I think E.H. Taylor got second, but again, you could flip-flop these any given day. So there you go, E.H. Taylor's in second place. There's so much of that like birthday cake ice cream, Maker's Mark yogurt thing in that. And so the winner, 24A. And that's kind of what I thought would happen the first time I did this flight, is that A would come out on top. Did not happen. Does anybody remember what the other order was in the first one of these that I did? I think B was in last for that one as well. Is that the case? Not sure if anybody recalls that stream. I know that C won, but I can't remember the other two. I thought it probably went C, A, B. But at any rate, 24A. Man. It's strange because when 24A came out, I said that it really reminded me of an E.H. Taylor barrel proof because I thought it had some of those brighter notes. This, in this flight, is the darkest whiskey, in my opinion. And that's kind of shocking, but I think it drinks really well. And this, to me, I just think 24A and E.H. Taylor are pretty killer this year, and I think it just depends on what you like. 24C is very solid. I would hang on to this one. I'd pop it open. It's kind of going to do a little bit of everything for you, but those bottom two are just not really it for me. All right. Barry says A has that grape soda note. I agree. Like, that is what I was picking up here. I also found like those drier dark fruit notes, like the dried cherries, the dried, like, kind of raisiny notes. Great job, Cam, for not liking the D. That's funny. All right, so it was CAB last time. So at least I'm consistent with B being at the bottom of the pile here. Danny Spirits, like E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof 13 is really, really good. It's not my profile, but I'm not going to let that dissuade me from putting it in the top two because I think as far as quality of whiskey goes, it is top two for sure. And I think actually a majority of people might put that over 24A. So there you go, guys. That is tonight's blind flight results. 24A wins. 24B, the mega loser. E.H. Taylor's great. 24C, solid. 24D is just worth passing on, I think. So there you go. Hit that like on the way out. Thank you for tuning in. And more content on the way, I promise. I promise I will not be live tomorrow night. I've got a rehearsal going probably till 9:30-ish, maybe 10 p.m. I can't remember. Doing West Side Story this week and next week. So cheers. Thank you, Justin, for the samples in the bottle. I'll get these things back to you now. And appreciate you guys for tuning in. Cheers. See you soon here on Drums and Drams.